Welcome to Diary of a Dreamer, where resilience unlocks your potential. I'm Tasha Eizinger, and each week I'll bring you powerful stories and practical insights from my own experiences and inspiring guests. Whether you're facing challenges or chasing dreams, this podcast is your go-to for motivation, building confidence, and practical tips for transforming obstacles into opportunities. Be sure to check out my website, tashaeizinger.com. Let's dive into today's episode and start turning your dreams into reality. Today we are with Dr. Paula Crider, Professor Emerita of the University of Texas. She is internationally recognized as a guest conductor, lecturer, clinician, and educator, which taught me a new word. I did not know what that word was until looking up Paula today. She is the past president of the National Band Association and the American Bandmasters Association, and was the first woman to do so. I don't know Paula all that well, but I could keep going on and on about all of her accomplishments. But knowing you, Paula, as little as I do, I know you want to get to the meat and potatoes.
Indeed. You know, when you get to be my age, time is short.
Well, I am so humbled that you're here today. I have been wanting to learn from you, and selfishly, that's one of the reasons why I invited you to be on my podcast, because I want to learn from you.
Well, you're too kind.
So I met you at the Midwest Clinic. I work there in that world for only a week out of the year. Mm-hmm. And one of the benefits of that is I don't really know who anybody is. And I kind of like that because I pay attention to people's behavior and how they treat others. And I'll tell you what, Paula, when I saw you walk in the room, I knew you were a very confident, strong go-getter of a woman that I had to know. So we had breakfast together and I started asking you questions and found out that you were the first woman in the state of Texas to conduct for the band. Is that correct?
Correct. For a class, what was then a 4A band, it would be a 6A, but the top classification in Texas. Yeah.
That's amazing to me. Was that your goal when you started out your career, to be the first woman to do that?
No, I just wanted to be a high school band director, which at the time was considered something that women, didn't have the opportunity to do. It's, I could have been a middle school band director, which is fine, or teach elementary music, but being a high school band director, which is you get to work with obviously more mature kids on a good day and more challenging music and so forth. And so I just wanted to do that. When I went to Texas, there were no females in that role. So I was very fortunate because I had a music supervisor whose wife was one of the best teachers I'd ever met. And she taught middle school all of her life and would have been a fantastic high school band director. But of course, back in the day, that was like a female football coach. It was just unheard of. So, her husband became music supervisor and saw something in me that said, I'm going to give her a chance that my wife didn't have. And I really owe my career to a man named Weldon Covington.
I absolutely love so many pieces of that story. I love that. I do think it's important for people in power to look for rising stars. And that's what he saw in you. He saw so much potential in you. So I think it's interesting too, being part of the Midwest Clinic, I really have met a lot of conductors. And one of the things I never thought about, which is obvious, is in a band, there's a lot of people within the band, but there's only one conductor.
Yes.
So highly competitive, isn't it?
Exactly.
Okay. So you started conducting, and then were you just super confident from the get-go?
Oh gosh, no. I mean, I never, to this day, it would be anathema to me to say, I know everything there is to know about anything, not to mention music. But when I started, I'm a trumpet player, and my goal at that time was to play trumpet for the rest of my life. I was going to be the next principal trumpet in the Chicago Symphony, or, I love playing, we love making music. And my college band director encouraged all of us who were going to play professionally to get a music education degree. And music education degree involves student teaching. You had to go out, for a semester and basically learn more about teaching. And when I went out to do my student teaching, the band director, after about 10 days, had a heart attack.
Oh.
And my friends asked me what I did to precipitate that. I got anything to do with it. But long story short, he decided he was going to retire. And this was a little school in a small town in Mississippi. And so the principal called me in and said, we're going to have to hire a new band director. But until then, we'll pay you to be a a substitute teacher. And I thought, great, student teacher, get paid for it. When I didn't think ahead, there was nobody there to guide me. The band program was so weak that no one even applied for the job.
Oh, my word.
So I became instant band director after 10 days of student teaching.
That would be so scary.
And it was, I my friends who had been teaching for a year or so, I went everywhere I could to learn. But the point I'm making here is one day about, maybe 3 weeks into rehearsal, I'd worked and worked and worked on this particular passage so that the kids, and finally they just nailed it. And I stopped and said, that was fantastic. And they started high-fiving and smiling and whatever. And I thought to myself, PC, you dope. You've been so busy trying to make them better. That's the first positive thing you said. But when I saw the joy on those kids' faces, that was a paradigm shift for me. It was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want kids to experience that joy and that sense of accomplishment when they're making music. And so after that, but I fell into a high school. There weren't any female band directors teaching high school in the state of Mississippi either.
Man, it's kind of wild to think that, I know that some of the women that I get to talk to at the clinic, we all look up to you so much as this person
who quit it.
We do, because you didn't let that stop you. You didn't say, I can't because it hasn't been done. You're like, well, I'm going to do it scared anyways.
Right. Bring it. Yeah.
Yes. So have you always been somebody who's loved challenges?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I figured, do you have brothers by any chance?
I do not. I have a younger sister.
A younger sister. Okay. Because I just feel like you've just always probably grew up as this little firecracker, ready to take on a challenge and make it happen.
Right. Beating up my brothers, that.
Yes, that's kind of what I thought.
Well, Tim Lawson, I've always wanted a brother, and Tim Lawson-Heiser always wanted a sister. So we adopted each other. And it's funny because some people think he actually is my brother.
Oh, my goodness. Well, the cat's out of the bag now.
Right.
What a dynamic duo. No, because I tease, I have 2 brothers. So I just kind of tease, I'm a different kind of woman. Men don't really intimidate me. We just kind of, that's why I maybe assumed that you had brothers.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay. So what do you think has given you the courage to try, even though you were afraid?
Well, I'm not sure I have an answer for that because I've really just always been this way.
Yeah.
And one of the things that music teaches us, if you're going to be good at what you do on an instrument, you have to have the discipline to practice.
Mm-hmm.
It can become very competitive, but the competition ultimately is with yourself and not with anyone else. You compare, right?
Yeah.
And it's that. Okay. And of course, I participated in sports in high school, and I've just always been the kind of person that if somebody says, you can't do it, especially because you're a girl, it's like, just eat my dust, folks.
I love that. Yes. Challenge accepted.
I don't want to sound arrogant because that
No.
is, but I really think that if you can't believe in yourself, even though there's always going to be a doubt there, can I do this? And then the second step for me is, did I do it well, and what can I do better?
See, and that's why you're not arrogant right there. You are competitive and driven, which is beautiful, but you're not arrogant, because what I've heard you mention a few times already is your self-awareness and self-reflection.
Absolutely.
So do you have something that you do consistently every day, or questions that you ask yourself consistently to be so reflective and keep improving?
Well, I start every morning with Tai Chi, and I do a meditation
Okay.
and focus, and especially dealing with cancer. That's something that I'm just, I trying to will it away. But uh, every year I take time for myself. There's a place I go in the mountains,
Mm.
and it's Lake O'Hara. It's above Banff in Canada, and you stay at a lodge, and they'll pack your lunch, and you can hike all day and not see another person, and climb like 2,700 feet. It's gorgeous,
Mm.
and I'll go up and just that's my one day to look at what I've done and ask myself, and this is going to sound so cheesy, but are you doing good?
Yeah.
Because I think doing good is equally as important as doing well. And teaching music is such a gift because you can teach kids to care about each other.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, with what's going on in our world, I think that's more important than ever.
I could not agree with you more.
Yeah.
I really couldn't. And I really like that question because you were already helping me reframe, because sometimes people ask, how do you define success? And I ask myself, did I do my best today?
Absolutely. Right.
Right. If I did, and that looks different every day, as you know,
Right.
depending on what you're going through in life, it might look different, but I'm going to add, did I do good? As well as did I do my best and did I do good?
Yeah, that's not a grammatical error, right?
That is really a beautiful question. And I agree with everything that's going on and what we're seeing. It is important that people focus on the good that they can do.
Yeah, and have compassion for other people. I mean, what I see going on right now, there's so much cruelty. And oh my God, well, we won't get into politics, but my goodness, but I can stand in front of a group, Tasha, and make beautiful music, and the rest of the world goes away. And I'm so fortunate to be able to do that.
And we even saw during the pandemic, people sharing music to bring joy.
Yes, absolutely.
Groundedness and peace and just help people. And I think music is such a beautiful thing, interacting with people like you at the Midwest Clinic, because that joy and passion is contagious.
Absolutely. And it's on steroids at Midwest, as you know.
Sure. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm excited with you because I can feel it.
Good for you.
It is. It's just a really beautiful thing to be surrounded by inspired people. So I know, like, you obviously love creating music and helping others create music. Have you been like that your whole life? When did you start falling in love with creating music?
Oh gosh. Probably when I started playing my instrument.
Okay.
And trying to, that's a method of self-expression. And I was really lucky because so many high school band directors have been well trained in technique, but have never necessarily reached a professional level musicianship. And my high school band director at one time played second violin in the NBC Symphony Orchestra under Toscanini, which is huge. He was a virtuoso at the age of 16. He was Italian. The flip side of that was, how did he wind up at a small school in Mississippi? The pressure to play well was so much that he began to drink.
Oh.
And he developed a drinking problem. And when I think about what our band must have sounded like, he would go in the closet and come out kind of smelling like bourbon before every rehearsal. And at the time, he smoked a cigarette while he conducted. So at the time, that was just normal for us.
Isn't that wild?
But he was a fantastic musician, and he played for us every day on his Amati violin. And so instead of learning, just chunks of technique, I learned that music had to sing. And looking back on it, that I was far ahead of my time, not technically, but musically, when I graduated from high school.
I love that, because I feel like a lot of professions, it's an art and a science.
Oh, absolutely.
Both. Because You're right, you can just get focused on the technical, but that's not bringing out the joy.
Well, and one of my favorite quotes is Pablo Casals, who's a great cellist. And he says, the true music lies between the notes.
Yeah.
And that's when I wrote the book called Between the Notes, because you can go from one note to the other and just play it. I mean, you can teach a chimpanzee to play, happy birthday. But if there's meaning and soul and feeling, and there's that next level, then what we do is really, really, really meaningful and important.
Yeah. Well, I had the opportunity to watch just a little bit of a performance at the clinic, and I'd never paid attention to conductors before.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to the music, right?
Right.
But this conductor was introduced in such a way that I'm like, I got to pay attention to this conductor.
Yeah.
And I had chills and tears in my eyes. I'm like, this conductor is doing everything she can to evoke the emotion of this music and bring it out in the players.
Absolutely.
Okay. I don't know why that had never clicked. I really thought the conductor was there just keeping everybody on time.
Well, some conductors, that's all they do. So
okay.
This was obviously a very special conductor, because basic conducting is like dun, 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 dun. That's a 4/4 bar. But expressive conducting is something entirely different.
It's beautiful.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Like, what a great opportunity to have seen that. And so I can kind of understand a little bit of what you're talking about right now.
I wonder who that was, because I would love to hear that from you.
I really should. I need to look them up. They'd be in the program. So I'll have to look them up and tell them. Yeah, it really opened up my eyes to what you do. So going back to when you were talking about, the pressure and everything, what have you done to help you stay level-headed? Because I feel like you're a no nonsense kind of person, but that doesn't mean that you don't put pressure on yourself or feel pressure from others. So how do you manage it?
It's difficult. And when I was younger, I didn't do nearly as good a job as I did as I developed and matured. It's really important to get rid of those voices that say, what does everybody else think? And it's important to me, if someone whom I admire, and through my career, obviously, there've been people that I've admired and I've sought their counsel, but it's so easy to get sucked into that. What is so-and-so going to say, and what is such and such going to think? And it's like, who was it? I think it was Louis Armstrong that said, man, ain't nobody's opinion matters more than your own.
Those are true words. And how do you develop that mindset to embody it?
Right.
I mean, it's done.
I was going to say it's especially important for women, because as I go around the country, people ask me, how are you so confident? And I don't know how to answer that, except to say that every time I step on the podium, I want to be uber prepared.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, so many females are in a position where somebody will look at them, and because of their gender will think that they're not as competent as their male colleagues. And many times it couldn't be further from the truth.
Completely agree with you. What would you like to tell women about developing their confidence? Because I think it's so important for women to not mistake confidence for arrogance, because it's not the same thing.
Exactly.
How can they develop that in themselves?
Well, first thing is never stop learning.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important, no matter what we do, whether it's being a great mother or being a CEO, you never stop learning and looking for ways, not just in your own profession, but I think that too many people get in a box and stop looking. I love to travel. I love to read. And I think that knowledge is empowering.
It is.
And the second thing is, and I always tell, especially young students, both male and female, don't ever let anybody tell you can't be whoever you want to be or do whatever you want to do, because the world is full of naysayers. But if you want to do something and you just set your sights on that, then the chances of it happening are exponential. If that little voice in your mind said, well, I'm probably not going to try because I probably couldn't have, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, you're right. If you say you can't, you're right.
Yeah. exactly it. Your mind believes whatever you tell it to believe.
Have you always known that? Because they have neuroscience to support that now. Is that just something you've always innately known?
I think I've always sensed that. Yeah. When I was young, my sister and I are 5 years apart. So my mother, their divorce, and we used to joke about the stepfather du jour because we had several stepfathers. So I was alone a lot and helping raise my sister, which was great for me because it gave me a lot of time to reflect. And I can just remember thinking to myself when I was 9 years old, you can either feel sorry for yourself or you can get past this.
Wow, at 9?
Oh yeah,
that's incredible wisdom.
Well, who knew,
Because I'm hearing you say, stepfather du jour and all these divorces, like that to me, a lot of people would be in therapy for that as an adult, and that's okay, right? Everybody needs to heal differently. But the fact at 9, you're like, all right, well, this is just how it is, so deal with it.
Right, exactly. And I will say I had extremely supportive grandparents.
Okay.
And my grandmother was she had 5 sisters and they were all college educated in a time when that was not done. My grandfather was brilliant, and they both just nurtured whatever curiosity I had, which was great.
That's a beautiful thing that they encouraged a girl's curiosity.
Absolutely.
Right? That's very powerful.
Yeah. I never heard you can't do this because you're a girl.
Yeah. Yeah. I just had a conversation with my daughter last night because one of my cousins, their dad used to say, don't let society tell you girls what you're capable of.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
That's how you've lived your life too. It's just.
So how old is your daughter?
She's 11.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. I told her, I was like, listen, it was her birthday. So I was like, I want you to know you have beautiful gifts and talents, and don't ever let society tell you what you're capable of.
And that is so important, Tasha. That's so important.
It is.
Because my mother was, her whole objective was to go to college and find a husband.
Which was very common back then.
Oh gosh. So that should have been my goal. I mean, for my mother, right. And she meant well for me, but it's like, Mom, this is not what I want. Yeah. And it's like, oh yeah, but you have to find a doctor, find it. And I'm going, oh geez,
Right. And then you're like, how about I just be the doctor?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. There you go. I remember I had a young lady in my flute section one time when I was teaching in high school. And one of the things we'd do was just, what do you want to be when you grow up? And we'd spend a whole sectional doing that. And she said, well, I want to be a nurse. And this kid was like going to be valedictorian of her high school class. And I said, why not a doctor?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I could never do that. And it's like, oh, okay. And she was like a sophomore. And so I started pushing. She's a neurosurgeon now.
I love that.
It was like, and I'll get a card every Christmas. It's like, thank you, PC, for, letting me see myself, as more than a nurse. Not that being a nurse is not an incredibly important profession.
And it is important for people who know they're meant to be a nurse, go do it. We need good nurses. But if you feel a tugging on your heart that you're meant to do something else, then go do it.
Right. And nobody else was saying, you can do this. You don't have to be a nurse if you want to be, follow another career.
What I love is, have you heard the phrase women supporting women?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Doing that before it was like a hashtag.
Yeah. One of the things I do is there's is Women for Women. Do you know that organization?
No, I have not heard of it.
They support people in Nigeria and so on and so forth. And they get scholarships to learn a craft or to learn something, so that because so many of these women have children, they're not married, they have no, and their sense of self, of course, as you can imagine. And it's really great because in this process, I've sponsored, I think, 4 or 5 women now. And when they graduate, they write you and tell you what they're going to be doing. And it may be something like, I have learned how to weave, but I'm selling my goods. And, so yeah, that support group is very important.
And I do think that when women can support each other and we have male allies who see us and respect us.
Yes.
I mean, what greater thing can we do for society? Because women are community builders. We are builders of people.
And strong.
We are.
And strong. And I've had so many wonderful male colleagues, but I'll tell you what, it's funny sometimes, a male colleague will get a sniffle and stay home for 3 days. The woman will have walking pneumonia and there she goes.
And go sing opera or something just like completely absurd.
It's like, what's your problem?
Oh my goodness. Well, and we are very strong. And I think that sometimes women forget that the strength that I just feel like we innately have it.
Oh yeah. Well, gosh, yes, because I've never experienced childbirth, but I can't imagine. You have to be so strong, but that's in the DNA.
It is.
We're not physically stronger than males, although we are stronger than some of them. But I think that mental strength and that, the ability to withstand pain, for one thing, is genetic.
It is. Well, our intuition is like our little secret sauce, I feel like.
And I was joking one time about having a spidey sense, but I think that's true. And I think we can be better empaths sometimes than our male colleagues, but not always, because I have some male colleagues that are, can walk into a room and sense the room.
Yeah.
And that's so important for us who stand on the podium as teachers.
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to read. I remember I had a great first chair clarinet player one time, and she was always sitting on the edge of her chair. And one day I said, let's go back and do it again. And I got this, and I thought, that's not like this young lady. Instead of saying, you need to pay attention, whatever, I thought, well, and so after a band that afternoon, I said, hey, what's going on in your life? And she looked at me and she said, I just saw my boyfriend hugging another girl. And it's like to a 16-year-old, it's the end of the world.
It is. It absolutely is at 16. It's horrible.
If I'd done what I first wanted to do, which get with the program, you're not paying attention, you're not, that would have been a disaster, both for the rehearsal and for that child. So, we have that empathy that I think serves us well as well.
Yeah, the awareness of people. And also, if you had heard her say that and said, oh, get over it, you're 16, that's not going to help either.
Oh, no.
Worse. So you understood, like, at that age, it is a big deal. And I think sometimes adults forget that.
Well, it's a big deal at 35 too. I mean, what can I
say? Absolutely it is. So if you could go back and tell your 20-something-year-old self a piece of advice, what would you say?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it would be to pay more attention to my own instincts rather than counting upon the approbation of others. Because when I first started teaching, like many young teachers, and I'm embarrassed to say this, but it was important for me to win those medals and so on and so forth for the kids, but also to show that I knew what I was doing. Mm-hmm. Not long after that, it didn't take me too long to figure out that if you make beautiful music, all the other stuff happens. Yeah. And so, that the first year, the band that I taught had never made straight first divisions, which is it goes from 1 to 5. 5 is not a good thing. And, my whole goal in life was for them to make the first division. And they did. The kids worked so hard, and I was so proud for them. But it was kind of hollow because when they finished that, we hadn't really made a whole lot of music yet. It was just clean and perfect and well, not perfect, but it was pristine.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Because I feel like that's something that I would have told myself in my 20s. Just trust your instincts.
Yeah. And we shift our goals too, don't we? I mean, I think it more profound and more all encompassing. And yes, and certainly less, more we instead of me.
Yeah. And I think also when you're starting out, you do feel like, especially when you're driven like you are, you're like, hey, I do know what I'm talking about. These awards prove it.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's part of our, the way in our profession that people show that they are doing their jobs. So, if somebody's making 4s and 5s, something is very wrong with that program.
Right. Right. So about what age do you think you started shifting from, okay, the awards are hollow, the recognition isn't really necessary. I feel like I've proven myself. Now I can just create for the love of creating.
It happened in the second year that I was teaching.
Wow, that was quick.
Well, it was one of those fortuitous causing a paradigm shift things. My judge, one of the judges at contest was a guy named Frank Erickson, who was a very famous composer at that time. And I didn't know he was judging. We went to the state contest, and I looked up on stage, and I said to the stage manager, "Who's that old guy?" And he said, "Oh, that's Frank Erickson." That old guy, I was not 21 yet. He was probably 35, but nonetheless, he said, "That's Frank Erickson." And we were playing a piece by Frank Erickson. And I was like, oh my God. I mean, I can remember my heart. I can. So we went.
I just got really hot thinking like how scary that would be.
And conductors are supposed to use their left hands. But when I put my left hand up to conduct, it was shaking so much, and I didn't want the kids to see it. I conducted the whole thing with my left hand right here at my chest. So anyway, the kids played very well, and I still have a sheet, and I put it up in every office in which I ever taught, and it said, "This is a well-prepared band." And it said all the things about in tone and in tune and in time and style and whatever. And down at the bottom it said ... But what about the music?
Oh,
And it was like, I was spending so much time making sure that there was nothing wrong that a judge, could ding us a point for, that there was no joy and no expression. And that hit me so hard. It's like, you have got to quit this obsession with just making a one and shift to making music. And I'm so fortunate that it happened. Sometimes people never reach that point. And
well, you're really great at self-reflection and then also considering feedback that you want to take and probably also considering feedback that you want to throw away too, right?
Right. But more of the former than the latter. They're people who are at the top of our profession are there because they have so much knowledge. And, if you listen, you're that. And again, that's why when I became on the Midwest board, that was such a big deal for me, because I started going to the Midwest Clinic when I was a sophomore in college, because my college band director said it's a good thing to do. And, I still have notes from them, because the people that come to the Midwest that we have give clinics and conduct or whatever are absolutely at the top of their profession.
Yes.
And,
They are.
yeah. And no matter how many years I've been doing what I do, and people will come to me and say, "PC, you sat through my clinic," and I said, "Heck yeah." And I got some really great ideas, and it may have been something that, I'd forgotten all about that. Or what a beautiful way to say that. Or how to do that. And so the Midwest Clinic is a gold mine for things like that.
So you're not going to like me saying this, but it's true. I'm thinking about when you were conducting and so nervous because the person who wrote the music was there, right?
Right.
You do realize that people see you now and they're like, "Oh, it's Paula Crider. Oh my goodness." And they get so nervous and excited and are awestruck.
Well, I don't know about awestruck, but it's really funny to me when people will come up and, "Oh, you're Paula Crider." It's like, it's just me, kids,
But it isn't. I mean, you see yourself in the mirror every day, right? But what you have done for so many women, but also men respect you as well, because you're deserving of respect from everybody. What would you want to tell, other than it's just me kids, what would you want to tell young people who are wanting mentorship from people like you?
First of all, who do you want to be when you grow up? And I
Yeah.
think it's important. And if the answer is I want to make all ones at contest, I'll say, yeah, I was there once too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think, just defining where you wanted to, I have notebooks for every year that I ever taught. And I'll go back and say, like on September 19th, we were here. I want to be here next year. Just maybe if it's just pushing a little bit or faster scales or playing a piece that's more intriguing or whatever. So I think just telling people that, I also have kids come up and say, how do you get to conduct an all-state band? And I say, you work your anatomy off for about 30 years.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to do that. Well, you have to earn it. And that's the other part is that our profession, any profession, I'm talking about mine, but any profession, I think in order to be the best that you can absolutely be requires a heck of a lot of hard work. And I mean,
a long time too, right? It's not just, oh, I tried hard for a couple months.
Well, exactly. It's rolling up your sleeves and finding what people are doing that are more successful than you are. How do they do this? How did they achieve that? How do they do, and it is hard work. And a lot of kids are not, and I don't want to be one of these people that says, kids nowadays, because I think kids are a heck of a lot brighter and a heck of a lot smarter and a heck of a lot more creative because of all of the things that they can do. I do think their brains are being rewired differently and we need to figure out, but so many young people just want it all tomorrow.
I know. Well, and I've thought about this a lot of like the disservice of young kids having, I mean, think about the iPhone. That's like over $1,000 for a phone in their pocket,
Mm-hmm.
and they just get it. It's just given to them.
Right.
Right. And just different luxuries that exist nowadays that didn't exist even when I was growing up or when you grew up.
Oh, yeah.
That it's setting almost this like bar so high of what it looks like starting out in life. I know my first year of teaching, I mean, I put a blanket over my window to block out the cold so I didn't have to turn the heat on as high.
Wow. Yeah.
Poor private school teacher. And so, just different things that, you probably did starting out that young people, they don't have to have those challenges the same way.
Well, and time. I mean, it's, I would get to school as long as I taught. I was at school, when the sun was rising.
Exactly.
And leave long after the sun went down many times. But that's what it takes.
It does.
And it takes that kind of dedication and and again, it takes that kind of self-reflection too, because you have to spend your time wisely.
Yes. Well, and also like you had already talked about how you love to travel and, you took your trip up the mountain, once a year, all of that. I think that's important too, because sometimes people think that dedication means working 20 hours a day, 7 days a week for years and years. And you are not saying that.
No. And it's how you use your time. And one of the hardest things for me when I first started teaching was delegating. Yeah. Because, it was so easy for me to say, it's easy for me to do it myself. But when I got the kids involved in becoming leaders, when the band parents started becoming involved, it was a community. And that was a good education for me and for the band parents and kids as well. Because, I know some people that will waste time in rehearsal and rehearse. And, like I'll do all state bands. And I did one that it was like 8 to 12, 1 to 5, 7 to 10. And it's like the kids, not only physically, but mentally, they can't do that. But the whole, thought was the more time, the better they're going to be. No. The more time you spend constructively, the better they're going to be. And so, I just cut the rehearsals almost in half. And, it was like, wow, they're playing really well. Yeah, they're not dead.
They can actually still use their brains.
Exhausted, right?
Oh my goodness. So I know that you don't want people to think of your name and all of the accolades. What do you want people to think when they hear Paula Crider?
That if they ever played for me, that they experienced joy in making music.
That's beautiful. I have a feeling a lot of them did.
Well, I hope so, because that's, when you see that light, like that very first time in that rehearsal that I told you about, when kids get it and not just get it intellectually, but they feel it. And that's the thing about music that sometimes we miss, is that music, it's not how it sounds is important to me, is how music makes you feel. Those sounds make you feel, not just the sounds themselves. And, there'll be like, I have to leave pretty soon because I'm going to meet one of my former students. They're celebrating their 50-year class reunion. I know, 50 years. And I haven't seen her in ages and ages. Obviously, I don't think I've seen her in 50 years. And so I'm bringing some things they're having a dinner in about a week. But, those kids will come and say, do you remember when we played such and such? Yeah. And when you play something meaningful, it never leaves them.
Yeah.
And probably the greatest compliment that anybody can pay to me as a teacher is for my former students to say, I had kids and they were in band. It means that it was something so important to them that they wanted their kids to experience it too.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
I am so grateful that I was able to interview you today and learn from you and have time together. I
always feel like, there's this fake sitting in a chair and somebody's going to come in and say, okay, PC, will the real person show up today? But, it's what subject did you teach?
So I taught English, and I did not want to teach English. I wanted to teach science.
Okay.
As the new teacher, I was told, I'm the science teacher and you get to teach English. I was happy to teach literature because I love reading.
Yeah, me too.
But it's worked out really well.
Have you read Theo of Golden?
I have not.
It is, you find a book that you read and it's so lyrically written that you want to read the paragraph again.
Oh, nice.
And it's, I won't tell you much about it except to say that he looks for the good in people.
I love that. I'm going to write it down. I will read that book.
It is, I read all of the time. And of all the books that I've read lately, that's the one that I'll probably wait a year and go back and read it again because I thought it was so good.
I love that. I will definitely read it and let you know what I think when I see you this December.
Please do. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing part of your day. And I definitely cannot wait to see you this December and catch up and visit with you.
Well, Tasha, you're kind to spend your time with me. So you have a great day.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Diary of a Dreamer. I hope you found the stories and tips shared today to be a source of motivation and strength. Remember, every challenge you face is a chance to grow and move closer to your dreams. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with anyone who could use a boost of encouragement. Please check out my website, TashaEizinger.com.